We want to thank River City Insurance and Duran Creative for being our episode sponsor. This week in the chair, we have Tim Gentry of Gentry Family Construction. Tim is going to share with us how his father's diagnosis almost made him want to stop his pursuit of owning and operating his own construction company, and how him and his family overcame that challenge to continue building their dream.
So I'm Tim Gentry from Gentry Family Construction. Opened this company in 2017. We're mostly exterior contractor. We're a James Hardy preferred contractor for siding, Owens Corning preferred contractor for roofing. Do a lot of windows, decks, fences, stuff like that.
Residential, commercial?
Pretty much all residential. We have done a little bit of light commercial, not a lot, but you know.
You prefer residential? That's your...
Yeah, I feel like helping out people's homes. I feel like is like kind of hits home for me, you know. So that's a big thing for me. There's already a lot of good commercial guys out there, but we have done a little bit of light commercial. We did OK Tires on 12th Street. Okay. We did the metal on that, which was pretty fun. But yeah, mostly all residential stuff.
And primarily, you said siding, roofing, and windows? Do you do windows?
Yep, do windows. Yep, kind of goes hand in hand sometimes, I guess, with siding. Yeah. So most of the time when you do a siding bid, they usually want their windows done as well.
Right.
So kind of goes hand in hand. And it's nice for to do them both at the same time. I mean, if you side it and then got to take the windows out later, it's kind of a pain, but right. It can be done. You know. Do you
guys do gutters?
We don't do gutters. I usually refer them out. I got a good gutter guy that we usually use.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else on the envelope of the house. Roof, no gutters, siding, windows.
We have built. We do like sheds and stuff as well.
Okay.
You know, we'll frame up little sheds and stuff. Nothing under 10 by 10 most of the time. People just little she sheds mostly. Yeah. We also do awnings. You know, build awnings off the back, off the deck that we built or something. Someone wants to cover. Yeah. A lot of Trek decks. A lot of people go into Trek decks. I like personally cedar. Looks a lot better when it's all done. But you know, to each their own. It's their home, so you just kind of do what you can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all pretty fun, man. I just really enjoy what I do. You know, and I think that's a big thing for any type of person, for any type of job. I just think that you got to really enjoy it, love it, and really understand what you're doing too, you know? So.
Yeah. And you said that you got 4 guys with you, and I want to say they're all family, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Brother, uncle, and my dad, and then me. So 4 altogether.
Have you had any other people part of the team that were not family?
No, nope.
Or has it's just been you guys?
Actually, most of the time for the first 3 years was just me, my dad, and my uncle. So it was just 3 of us, and then I brought my brother on. So actually during COVID, he was a sous chef, so he ended up losing his job. A lot of people lost their jobs, you know, when they're in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, that and the hospitality industry.
Yeah,
I've had a few people on here that overnight they had no more income.
Yeah, sad. But yeah, so I kind of pulled him in. I mean, he did this stuff as well when we were younger with my dad as well, and so I pulled him in, and that was pretty cool because it gave him obviously more income and stuff, and he's pretty good at it too. He's actually done really well. So it's kind of nice to have another younger guy on the team, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're at a place where you don't really have downtime anymore. You're
man, it was out. I mean, like I said, we're booked out pretty much until next year, which is super nice. Yeah. I mean, it's I guess less worry or whatever you can say, but the biggest thing I think is like I said, you come in and you do a bid for somebody and you're not subcontracting it out. If I'm doing the bid, I'm also doing the work as well. So I think people really, really enjoy that. And when I come out and meet you, go over the roof with you, and then I come out and do the work as well, I think that's big for contractors nowadays.
Yeah, you know, having some people on here, they have talked about how some part of some of the growing pains in their company, especially in the contracting space, is as they've become more popular because they're doing good work and they're growing, that one of the parts of the pain of that is where they used to be the person that was out bidding it and that was out swinging the hammer. Well, now they're growing to a place where they can't do all those things and they're hiring people. And that has been something that, they've gotten comments of, oh, we thought you were going to be out, and so there definitely is when growing businesses, I would say a lot in the contractor space of kind of, what size do you want to be? Right. And like with Chad, when in his episode, he's been pretty purposeful about the type of work he takes on and the size. I want to say he told me like 9 employees has been like the ideal size for him. Yeah. Because it's easy to like see the money and go, I want to do everything and take every job on. But that also creates a lot of havoc, challenges. And so it sounds like thus far you're staying in this space of I bid it, I'm out there.
I think it's the biggest part of it is the family part too, but I think once my dad kind of steps back and kind of doesn't work as much, I think I probably will get into the point where obviously I'm going to have to hire a couple guys, but at this point it's nice to stay small and I'm able to provide for my family and my entire family that works with me, to be able to provide for them, and that's big. When you start getting employees and you start having to worry about feeding their families and stuff, I think that gets tough for some contractors. You get 10 trucks going a day with 3 guys in them. Each one of those guys got to get paid to go home and feed their families. And for me, I don't think I would ever personally want to get that big. But I would probably eventually, maybe in the next 20 years, step back from doing a lot of the work and doing bids and maybe just running 1 or 2 crews, something. But staying small is definitely what I want to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of advantages to that. Yeah. Like I said, I know a lot of times in business, it's easy to see the dollars and want to get bigger. Like I've said this multiple times, Olga and I with our River City insurance company, we both are similar in the idea of we're not trying to be like really big or open other branches somewhere. Like we both kind of have that same vision of and I mean we'll see, we haven't turned any business down so far, so we'll see how things grow, but we're the type of people that I think we would be okay if it was just a smaller agency that, we've come from bigger ones and seen those challenges. Or, hey, I never hear from this person. Or, they got me as a client now and then I never see them anymore. So, there's definitely pros and cons to both. But, staying smaller, you got more control of the quality and customer service. And I think it just comes down, because I've had people on here that are like, I'm trying to be as big as I possibly can. Yeah. It comes down to, what that vision is and, the personality. And
I think that's the biggest reason why I don't want to get big too, is that you just said, the quality, and sometimes that goes away. And for me, I want to keep that quality. For me, like I said, a family business, it's one of those things that really hits home, and I want it to grow, but I just want to be able to support my family and be able to support a few others and just keep going with it.
Yeah. We talked quite a bit out there, but let's get into the side of these conversations that I enjoy the most, which is that personal side of who you are, what your journey has been, right? And like I always say to the business owners, I know that it hasn't just been this nice, easy, smooth, especially some of the stuff you told me out there. it's like a lot of entrepreneurs that you do a little bit of this and a little bit of this and a little bit of this until you don't have to anymore.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, go back as far as you want, wherever you want to start.
So, I started as a banquet server out of high school, and then at the Salem Convention Center, and I started this company in 2017. I worked there from 2012, I think it was, up until about I started the company. I worked both for a little while to try to gain, obviously, momentum. I really enjoyed working at the Salem Convention Center, but obviously I wanted something more. You want, as a kid, I've always wanted to have a career, and I think this is kind of, I've always had people tell me, like, after I do a job for them and stuff, they see why I do what I do, and I really enjoy it. I think the biggest thing for where I have accomplished from is that I pretty much grew up where I didn't really have a lot. So where I'm at now today is big for me and my family. But back to I started this company. We used to be slow in the summertime, so I would I'd work actually at Steve Johnson's, the president of Vips. I'd work out at his farm when we were slow, and I always told my wife, I was like, how do I make more money somewhere else? You know what I mean? So I ended up talking to my brother. He's actually a regional manager for Taco Bell now, but back then he was just coming off a divorce, didn't have much, and we kind of made a joke. Let's make a lawn care service, because my grandpa was a lawn care guy for a long time, and so I made a flyer. It was funny. I was sitting there. I made a flyer called Brothers at Work.
Okay.
And I thought that was going to be like the hit, Oh, we're going to go mow lawns and do stuff like that, right? And so, I showed him, and he's like, dude, I ain't mowing lawns. I was like, come on, So, like, I kept telling my wife, I was like, I want to do something. I want to do something. And, she's like, you could do anything you put your mind to, And so I talked to my dad. I was like, what if I get my contractor's license? Would you help me? He's like, of course. So I went out, ordered the book the next day, and started studying, and passed my test. And I was like, what do I do from here, And so, being married and with my wife, she's been my biggest supporter for sure. She's done a lot for me, and we just had our first kid, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, congrats.
Which is cool. He's a boy, because hopefully I get to pass this down to him.
Yeah.
I mean, if he doesn't want to, I get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of cool to be able to maybe generations of a company, kind of like Delkey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's just going back to when I got my license, I didn't really know what the next steps were. So my wife's like, well, you got to make a name, you got to make a logo, you got to do this, you got to do that. I'm like, okay, hold on. I thought I was just going to be a contractor, So I was like, well, what does that mean?
Nope,
so
you're going to be a bookkeeper and an accountant and a design artist. And
So all that goes into it. And so we ended up searching the websites and stuff. And we ended up going on GoDaddy, making a website and all that stuff. And, that's big. Like you were talking about out there with the websites, it's big, because you want to be able to see what they do, understand a little bit about them, what I mean? Profile, talk about what you do and where you come from and stuff. And so we hit the website, and we found this logo on it, just a random link we found. And I was like, that's the one. My wife's like, yep. And so I always wanted to be, like Nike, Adidas, like I was telling you before. Is like, it's super simple, super catchy. You want something that everybody looks at and remembers, and I think that's kind of what we kind of caught with it.
I remember the first time I seen one of your trucks. I want to say in West Salem. And once I realized what it was, and then I was like, oh, I know it's a clamp, but then I go, oh, it's a G. Oh,
yeah.
I like that. I remember when I first kind of put that together, and I was like, I like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've always got, a lot of people saying it's a cool logo, which is cool. It's not just. I feel like it's not just original. So it's something different. Mm-hmm. But going back to kind of the business aspect, after we got all that going, my dad he was actually pretty much retired from doing it. So I was like, well, teach me everything you know. And we started. The realtor that sold me my house, that was our first job. I remember doing a deck for her mom out south, actually. So we ended up doing that deck, and then obviously that led to more jobs. She told somebody about us because I wasn't really advertising or nothing. I was still kind of doing 2 jobs at one time, and it just kind of took off from there. It was a lot of the first year and a half was word of mouth. I didn't advertise nothing, just kind of seeing where it was going to take me, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And then we got hit with some crazy news. We were out on a job that we were roofing, and my dad gets a call, comes up the ladder, and he's pretty much crying. And I'm like, I've never seen my dad cry, And I knew he went to the doctor and all that because I was there, but we didn't know what to think of it, obviously. And then all of a sudden, man, it was like he's like, I got cancer, and it like boom, hit me like just a ton of bricks, And still to this day, like almost emotional talking about it. But it's just crazy to think that till this day he's still here and he's still working with us, and he's a beast, is what I say. He's just it takes a lot to be able to beat cancer and then still I would say roofing is one of the hardest jobs. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When it comes down to it, and he's been doing it for going on 40 years now, so it's crazy. But yeah, he caught cancer, and kind of we just I was like, what do I do now? I had my uncle, so it was just us 3, but I had my uncle, and he was kind of like, well, what do we do? So we were still doing little jobs here and there, odd end jobs, while I was taking my dad up to Kaiser, where he did his radiation and chemo and stuff. And he did that for 7 weeks, I think. And taking him up to the appointments and watching him go through that was probably one of the hardest things ever for me. And once all that went down, I almost kind of wanted to stop the business at first because I didn't know that what I was going to do without him, Mm-hmm. And I understand the fact of doing contracting, without him, but the biggest thing is I wanted to do it with him, you know what I mean? And so I still had a lot to learn, and I wanted to learn it from him. So after all that, about that 7 weeks, and then all of a sudden we get a call 3-4 days after Christmas was his radiation doctor saying that we had to go up for a PET scan, and he was cancer free. And so that was weight lifted, because for me, I just quit pretty much doing anything and everything, almost like a depression feeling, you know, because one, my dad was my best man at my wedding, so that's big, for me. And it was a lot. It was a lot on a young kid that my wife took in a lot of stuff from that, for sure.
Yeah. Kind of pausing the business. Yeah. And dealing with the personal side of this is my dad, and sounds like best friend, and then do I even do the business, and what do I do in the meantime while we're not doing this? And that's it. From us talking out there, it sounds like your wife was quite the backbone, or has been quite the backbone to a lot of this stuff.
For sure.
That's awesome to hear. I can't imagine. I haven't been in that spot.
She's definitely she's pretty much my savior, man. She's literally done pretty much anything and everything we've needed to, get to this point, and she's been a lot of help. And
what is her name?
Jessica.
Jessica.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't do without her at all.
Good work, Jessica.
Yeah, so
I like shouting out the. I like shouting out. I mean, I mostly have dudes on here that have been married, and I like shouting the wives out because now I'm hearing different ones say, "Oh, I heard my name," or when I say my wife's name on here, and I like hearing these stories of people talking about their partner and how supportive that person has been. And because a lot of times, like with a guy like me, I'm the guy up front that people see or know, and a lot of people don't know my wife, or she's more quiet. But a lot of those ones are like these backbones to the people that get all the glory and they get all the attention. But then there's people behind them that are propping them up and supporting them. So
I think you need that though, especially when you're running a small business. You need that person that's going to be there, and she's been that person, which is super big.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like from our chatting out there that maybe she'll be pursuing some stuff, some passion work of hers.
Yeah.
Which you can be
finally,
helpful on.
Finally, after, almost a year and a half now after having Carter, which is my son's name. It's big, she's doing Gentry's creation. She's doing cricket stuff, decor, going to be doing furniture, and it's going to be really cool, man. So
that's good. Share the story of the job you did in Walport, and talk about what you're wanting to do annually. I like that part of your story, and kind of the vision you have for that.
Yeah. So we last year actually we did a thing. I actually was talking before I even got this job. I kept telling my wife I want to do something for the community. And I thought Gentry's gifts, I thought that would be a really, really cool thing. It kind of, goes together, right? Mm-hmm. So I got this call, and it was a 10,000 square foot building, one of the bigger buildings I've probably ever worked on. It's called Southtown Lincoln Resources. So it's a food share / they get clothing for people and help people over in the Walport area. And they gave me a call, and they asked, do you guys do metal roofs? So I went out there with my dad. We looked at the roof, and, every contractor that bid it, was up in the $200,000 range to redo it. And, I was, if I was to redo it, if I was to not have done a donation the way we did it, I probably would have been in the 150 range or so too. But it was actually really cool. So after I heard his story and what they do for the community, I was like, well, maybe I can help them. So I went to Taylor Metal. Jack Wallace is one of the managers over there, and he actually ended up getting us the metal all ran, all one color. It was super nice, standing seam panel. We ended up doing that. I lost my train of thought.
Well, and I don't know if you want to necessarily disclose all the numbers that you told me out there. I don't know if that would be a conflict for the whole project. But more the idea of, because of what this project was for, people were willing to discount things. But I don't know if you really want to say the the numbers.
No, they cut a big chunk off the metal, and then basically once we started tearing off the project, it was the first panel. There was no plywood, so unfortunately with a standing seam panel, it's 16 inches wide. We have to have plywood underneath. So I call them and let them know, and they're like, "Whoops," So we ended up calling Copeland's right down the street, and they sent up four big old bundles of half-inch CDX. We started putting it on the next day, and that was all free to them, which was really cool. But instead of us doing it for the price that a lot of contractors would have done it, I mean, we did it for about, $40K, which is huge. I mean, that's, triple the cost of what it probably would have been.
Yeah.
So for me, it was way more than contracting, way more than my business, way more than anything. It was actually like more of like helping somebody that really needed it. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't just helping them, I was helping a community.
Right.
So for me, that was pretty big.
Yeah.
Especially for being a small business. I mean,
right.
Most people that do that are, $1 million big companies, I feel like. So,
right.
Making a statement like that felt really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then from that one, it sounds like you want to do some kind of annual, Gentry's gift. In like, when you say that, like in terms of like a project, that's a lot less of what it should be.
So I think my biggest goal would be from it is that they're not having to spend as much money as they should have in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. So, most roofs are anywhere from nowadays. I mean, when I first started, they were a lot less, but nowadays they're anywhere from, $9 to, $25 grand, depending on size, Mm-hmm. So if you can knock off more than half or even, say there's a family that really truly needs it, and going to People's Church, if I could, incorporate that with it, that would be something really cool for me to do. But basically my ultimate goal would be to do a full job once a year to where, the business doesn't make the money, we don't make the money, but we're supporting that person that truly needs it, instead of just like going up to somebody and doing a job for somebody that doesn't truly need it,
mm-hmm.
that could afford it. I want to do it for somebody that really can't.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that's, I love hearing those stories. Those are the stories that as this thing evolves, that I've said to you that I want to highlight. And if you really do start, doing that, let me know, because those are the kinds of things that, maybe we can do something together and make.
I would love to incorporate it, man.
Video,
that'd be sweet.
Or, just promote whatever that's going to be. And like I said out there, eventually as this grows, I want to hold events and fundraisers where we're all kind of helping together, some common goal of, charity or whatnot, or we're like, when we do the first event, I've had like a few photographers on, like Zach and Lacey, so if they can make it, I'd be like, yo, bring your camera, you guys shoot video.
Yeah.
And some video people, hey, you bring your video camera, you shoot video. Or someone that was a DJ, hey, maybe you come and you play some music. And we all kind of like do a little bit of what we do anyways. And kind of a mixer, but then also fundraiser.
Yeah.
So I definitely see this thing evolving into more than just these, the podcast conversations. But just trying to, that positive.
Yeah.
Like I said out there, there's so much negative.
Yeah. You need positive vibes, man. Nowadays you need positive vibes, man.
Everywhere you turn, it's some kind of negative story or, it seems like in life, it's so easy, to focus on, the negative.
Yeah.
There could be multiple positives, and then one negative, and it just seems like it's.
And everybody hits towards that negative and doesn't look at the positives. It's like that thing's just right there, and everybody's looking at that. When they're scrolling on their phone, and then they're talking about it, and then everybody's talking about it. Yeah. It's like standing in a circle, right? You tell that one person that, and they get down to the other guy all the way around the circle. It's not even the same story anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just talking with, I'll probably leave the names out of this story, but I was talking with an athletic director about a coach. And I think being a head coach is very difficult, which is why I don't do it. I just help. I'm just an assistant coach or volunteer or whatnot, whatever I do. And I think it's very difficult because For multiple reasons. Number one, most of the time at our jobs, we do not have a group of people that show up during the most stressful part of our jobs and watch what we do the entire time.
Yeah.
Coaches, when they're coaching during a game, they got all these people that are armchair quarterbacks, and they know better, or I would have done this, or I would have done that. And at the level that I'm referring to, there's parents that love their children and they want the best for their children and my kid should be playing and all this kind of stuff. And I was talking with this AD about this coach, and in my opinion, overall this coach had done a great job for the season. But this coach had a few things that could be worked on.
Right.
And it's amazing the attention that those few negative things gets compared to like how I view things. I'm looking at all those positive going, well, I mean, there's a list of these positive things. I don't think those few negative outweigh that. But unfortunately, a lot of times in society, those few negative things, that's what people are talking about. That's what people are focused on. And I just know that there is a lot more positivity out there that doesn't get talked about. And that is one of the layers to why I'm doing all this and trying to get the stories out. Because like we were saying, if you're not out sharing the story of like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do with this Gentry's gift, and I did one project and, have an idea to do others, no one would know that. Yeah. No one would know those things.
Yeah.
And I think those kind of stories are so uplifting and encouraging. I think it makes other people think, well, maybe I could do something like that, or attempt to do something like that.
We definitely need more stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even like, with you talking about it now, just like it'd be cool to maybe even like team up and talk about it even more, so more people can relate to it and get it out there. You know?
One thing with this podcast deal that I think I see in my future, now that I have a somewhat decent grasp on how this stuff works. It's been funny because I've had multiple people be like, yo, your podcast is, it's just been killing since the beginning. And honestly, I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what makes it good or not or whatnot. But I was just talking with someone, I think yesterday, and they kind of always wanted to do a podcast, but they have no idea how all this works. They have something to say in a topic of conversation, but then the actual logistics and business and all of it. So I kind of see, as I get more established with this, of maybe trying to help others start their own, or maybe I'm part owner of what they're doing, but really I supply all this, but they have the topic, or they're the talent basically of it.
Right.
And just trying to, like we talked about, there's plenty. No matter what you're in, there's plenty for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's plenty of space in the podcast space. Yeah. I mean, even though there's 2 million podcasts, it's growing and, it's becoming a real thing that people tune into. And
like I was saying, there's people that literally like listen to more podcasts, I think, nowadays, and they probably listen to, regular music.
Yeah.
Which is good, though, because, one, you're listening to people's stories. Mm-hmm. You're listening to what others have to say, or what their journey was, kind of like what we're talking about today. Mm-hmm. Your journey with the chair, your journey with your insurance company. I mean, it's good to hear what other people have to say, because like you said, people drive nice things and people just think, oh, they're doing great, but where did it come from? How did they get there? And for what you're doing here, I think it's great, man.
I appreciate that. Talking about like what they drive, part of like your story, and a lot of these things, they're not unique to entrepreneurs and business owners. A lot of the more that I do of these, and the more that I hear people's stories, a lot of similarities of how they got started and what they had to do, and but I like bringing out the beginning days of businesses, because it's so easy. Like we said with Mike here, it's so easy to, you met him at the Street of Dreams and you see all his rigs running around, and and then you would just think, well, he's always done this, and that's so far from the truth, right? And it's like doing him a disservice to view him that way or treat him that way, when if you get to know him, then you go, wow, this guy like, he's been through it. And he had a company, and then that went down, then he had to start another one and rebuild it, and then if you really get to know him, you realize this guy's a great guy. Like, what a nice guy.
Nice guy.
And then what's interesting, if people take the time to get to know someone, then some of that like hate, if you will, where it's like, oh, they got all the nice trucks, or it must be nice. Then you start to realize why they have all the nice trucks. Like with a guy like Mike, you're like, this guy's fantastic. Oh, wow, look at the product he does. This is great product. Oh, that's why he has all these trucks. Oh, he works really hard, and he treats people really well, and then it changes that perspective of, oh, it must be nice, or it was given to them. And then you start to realize, oh, that's why they have those things. They worked really hard for those things. They did right by people. That's why they have those things. And then it's a different feeling towards that person. For sure. You know what? They earned that. You know what? I'm not hating on them anymore. I'm not, and there's a lot of that, unfortunately, but because it's about where that person's at in their life, right? So they might be like, man, I wish I had what they had, and so they're feeling some kind of way. But I just think if people are willing to get to know each other's story, it kind of just takes a lot of that out of it. Then it's like, then you start championing the person. You're like, yo, Mike guy, this guy's a dope guy. I hope he gets 20 more trucks. Like, I hope he builds a bunch more $1 million houses. This guy's a great guy. And then you start like championing that, because you got to know him. Go ahead.
I feel like on a day-to-day basis, you don't know what someone's going through. You could be standing in line, someone behind you, could be going through cancer, or could be having a really bad day because the boss fired them or something. On a day-to-day basis, nobody really knows what you go through. And as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, I think being able to be here, talk about it, is really, really cool, because no one would know what happened, how I got to where I'm at, how I have the trucks and all the stuff we have. And I think it's really cool to be able to voice what's going on with the company.
I mean, you never know who's watching or listening. I'm sure there's going to be someone over time that tunes into this episode that has thought like, man, I want to be a contractor, or do this type of work, or like, how do I even do that? Or how did this guy even get started? I mean, the starting part is really difficult, and so that's part of why I really like highlighting a lot of these business owners. The start part is because that's the part where it's like, most businesses fail
within the first 3 years. Most of the time,
most do. When I got into the podcast game, I had someone, because like I told you, I'm not going to look up all the analytics to this stuff. Someone told me that most podcasts fail after episode. They just stop doing them. I think 7. It was like 7 or 4. And I was like shocked. I'm like, really? That like people do 4 and then they just stop? And they're like, yeah, most people do. And so really showing like, hey, this is the start part, and it's not easy. And like for you, like you're serving and you're out building. And you did that kind of as long as it really took people around you to be like, yo, just go do that full time. Like it's working. I know you're a bit nervous, but just go do that full time. But in the beginning, you can't do that. Where I don't have any jobs, I don't have clients. Like I got to go do this thing over here. So I really enjoy that part of entrepreneur's story, because that's that part. That's the true. I know you can lose it later, and it's a different feel once you've built it and you're trying to hold on to it. But the beginning part, I think, is the part where it's like, man, how'd they do that? How'd they pull that off? Because you see all your nice trucks now, but it's like, man, catch me 7 or 8 years ago, and you wouldn't have looked at me that way, right?
Yeah, no, definitely not. No, but it's we've all worked our tail off to get to where we are, which is, just like any other entrepreneur. I feel like, if you just keep working towards something, you will accomplish it. Yeah. Take what some people say, as a grain of salt, or just let it roll off your shoulder. Because if you feel like you can do it, you can do it. And if, someone tells you can't, well, prove them wrong, and that's the way I look at it. And that's kind of how I built this. I feel like there's more to life than just a day 9-to-5 job. Like what I do, I don't really consider a 9-to-5 job, because one, I'm meeting customers, could be potential friends in the long term, but also able to provide them something that some contractors would have probably done the wrong job. And for me, that's why I really got into this, is to do the right thing and make sure that the job's being done the correct way. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of bad contractors out there, and that's why Mike's doing so good, and Chad, and they do the right thing. They're out there doing what contractors are supposed to do to the home, to the business, and that's big nowadays, because if you're not going to succeed, and with 100 and some reviews that we have, it's just like if you go on Amazon, right? You go to buy something, what do? You look at the review, you know what I mean? So you want someone to tell you about that person, because that's going to make you get that job. Right. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's, it sounds like that part really helped your business.
Yeah.
And you're not the only one. I've had a few business owners in here that talked about where they really put attention asking clients to do online reviews, and how important that is. That's one thing for anyone listening, watching, that if you're not doing it, actually me and Olga just talked about it recently. We haven't really campaigned at all to ask our clients, hey, go online and rate us. But I've been talking to her more about it recently, because I've had people on here that go, hey man, this is really helpful.
It really works, man. I can be the first to tell you, honestly, from being the first 2 years to, going into year 6, it's the last 4, man. That's what really, really kicked off the business, going from, $50,000 in year 1 to year 6, and you're doing almost $700K, dude. That's big,
Yeah.
So that's a lot more.
Absolutely.
And I feel like with any business, you got to ultimately grow, because I feel like that's what kind of people get stuck in, like a rut. That's why they're like, oh well, after 3 years we're gonna fail, or after 5 years, and I think the biggest thing is just keep pushing, no matter what. It really doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, and that's why I always say, and my wife, Jessica, she's been the biggest supporter. She literally stopped, everything she was doing to support my dreams. And that's why literally we're at where we're at too,
Yeah.
So it's big.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, I appreciate you coming and spending some time with me today. It sounds like we've probably hooped against each other.
Yeah.
But, I really enjoyed doing this and meeting new people.
Yeah.
You seem like a really good dude. I look forward to seeing how your business continues to grow. I'm definitely interested. If you start doing some kind of Gentry's gift, get back at me, of highlighting that. Those are things that
maybe there'll be a part 2. You never know.
Yeah. Well, and for sure, I mean, as I've started this, I know that, I know how much stuff changes in just a year.
Oh, yeah.
So like some of my first, guests that were on last year, it's like, man, I could probably catch up with them next year. And hey, what's been going on the last couple of years?
Right.
So I know I'll eventually do repeat episodes. And, but yeah, I appreciate you coming and spending time.
Yeah, man,
today.
it's been really fun, man. I appreciate it. And what you're doing here, dude, is big for the community. I think it's gonna really work out for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Thanks.